The stars looked peaceful today. Jake Morrison sat in his fighter's cockpit, watching the endless black sky filled with tiny lights. He had been flying patrol for 3 hours now, and nothing unusual had happened. His ship hummed quietly around him as it moved through space. "Alpha Squad, this is Commander Hayes. Any activity out there?" The voice came through his helmet speaker. "Nothing, Commander. All quiet," Jake replied. He stretched his arms inside the small cockpit. Flying patrol was boring, but it was important. This area of space sat between human territory and the Vorathian Empire. Both sides watched it carefully. Jake had heard stories about the Vorathians. They were an old alien race, with purple skin and scales that shimmered like jewels. Their empire stretched across dozens of star systems. Humans had met them only 5 years ago, and the two species mostly avoided each other. Some humans didn't trust aliens. Some aliens didn't trust humans. That's how things were. His radar screen suddenly blinked. Jake sat up straight and looked closer. Something was moving fast toward this sector. "Commander Hayes, I'm picking up something. Multiple ships incoming," Jake said into his radio. "Confirmed." "I see them too," Hayes responded. "All fighters, form up on my position. Stay alert." Jake pushed his flight stick forward, and his fighter accelerated. 5 other human fighters joined him, creating a tight formation around Commander Hayes' ship. They waited and watched as the radar signatures grew closer. Then Jake saw them. 3 ships burst into view, racing at full speed. But these weren't military vessels. One was large and elegant, with smooth curves and bright metal that reflected starlight. It looked expensive and important. 2 smaller ships flew beside it, clearly acting as escorts. "Those are Vorathian ships," Hayes said. "Royal design, if I'm not mistaken." Behind the 3 Vorathian ships, a much larger group appeared. Jake counted them quickly. 9 enemy fighters, all painted in dark red and black. They fired bright orange blasts at the fleeing Vorathian vessels. "We've got a situation here," Jake muttered. The large Vorathian ship's shields flickered with each hit it took. One of the escort ships exploded in a ball of fire, torn apart by enemy weapons. The second escort tried to fight back, but was badly outnumbered. "Commander, they're going to die if we don't help," Jake said. Hayes was quiet for a moment. Jake knew what she was thinking. This wasn't their fight. Orders said to patrol the sector, not to interfere in alien conflicts. Getting involved could start a war between humans and whoever was attacking the Vorathians. "We need to fall back," Hayes finally said. Jake watched the Vorathian ship take another heavy hit. Its shields were almost gone. The second escort ship was now on fire, spinning out of control. Someone important was on that royal vessel, and they were about to die. His younger sister's face flashed in his mind. Amy had been only 16 when she drowned in a lake near their home. Jake had been on the shore, just 30 feet away. But he hadn't known she was in trouble. By the time someone noticed, it was too late. He'd lived with that guilt for 8 years. He'd promised himself he would never stand by again when someone needed help. "Did you hear me, Morrison? Fall back to defensive position," Hayes ordered. Jake looked at the radar screen. The enemy fighters were closing in for the kill. The Royal Vorathian ship was defenseless now. He thought about the people inside that ship, watching death come for them. He thought about his sister. "Sorry, Commander. I can't do that," Jake said quietly. He pushed his throttle to maximum power, and his fighter shot forward, breaking away from the formation. Behind him, he heard Hayes shouting his name, ordering him to return. He turned off his radio. Jake's fighter screamed across space toward the battle. 9 against 1 weren't good odds, but he'd been in bad situations before. His fingers moved over the controls with practiced ease, charging his weapons and routing extra power to his forward shields. The enemy fighters saw him coming. 3 of them broke away from the Vorathian ship and turned to face him. Jake didn't slow down. He aimed at the closest one and fired. His plasma cannons lit up the darkness with blue light. The shots hit the enemy fighter's wing, and it spun away, trailing smoke. Jake rolled his ship hard to the left, dodging return fire. Orange blasts streaked past his cockpit, so close he could feel the heat through the glass. He pulled up, looped around, and came at the enemy fighters from a different angle. His targeting computer locked on, and he fired again. Another enemy ship exploded, but now all 9 fighters knew he was there. They abandoned the Vorathian ship and came after him instead. Jake's plan was working. He just needed to buy time. Inside the Royal Vorathian vessel, Queen Lizara held onto her chair as the ship shook from weapons fire. Her silver scales gleamed in the emergency lighting. She was tall and elegant, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed with a soft purple light. She had ruled her empire for 20 years, and she had never felt fear like this before. "My queen, the shields are at 5%, her pilot said, his voice shaking. "We need another minute to charge the jump drive." "We don't have a minute," Lizara said calmly, though her hearts were racing. She watched through the front window as her last escort ship was destroyed. This was the end. Then she saw something impossible. A single human fighter charged into the battle, attacking her enemies alone. It moved like a dancing flame, spinning and weaving through space. It destroyed one enemy ship, then another. "What is that pilot doing?" her advisor asked. "That's suicide." Lizara watched the human fighter take a direct hit. Smoke poured from its engines, but it kept fighting. The pilot was drawing all the enemy fire away from her ship, sacrificing himself to give her time to escape. "He's saving us," Lizara whispered. Jake's cockpit was filling with smoke. Red warning lights flashed all around him. His ship had taken too much damage. He could barely control it anymore, but he could see the Vorathian ship's engines starting to glow brighter. They were charging their jump drive. Just a few more seconds. "Come on," Jake said through gritted teeth. He fired his remaining weapons at another enemy fighter, missing by inches. His left engine exploded, and his ship started spinning. He fought with the controls, trying to stabilize. The enemy fighters were closing in. They knew he was finished. Jake looked at his screen and saw the countdown timer. 15 seconds, until the Vorathian ship could jump away to safety. His ship was dying. His weapons were empty. His shields were gone. But he still had one thing left. He still had the ship itself. Jake aimed his crippled fighter at the largest enemy cruiser, the one that was lining up a final shot at the Vorathian vessel. He pushed his remaining engine to full power and locked his course. "For Amy," he said softly. His fighter crashed into the cruiser's weapon array at full speed. The explosion was massive, lighting up space like a newborn star. The cruiser's entire front section was torn apart. The other enemy fighters scattered in confusion. And in that moment of chaos, the Royal Vorathian ship vanished in a flash of blue light, jumping away to safety. Queen Lizara stared at the empty space where the human fighter had been. The pilot had given everything to save her. A stranger, from another species, had sacrificed his life for hers, without hesitation. "Find out who that pilot was," she ordered. "Find out if he survived." In the debris field, a small escape pod tumbled through space, its emergency beacon blinking weakly in the darkness. Commander Lisa Hayes arrived at the debris field 6 minutes after the explosion. Her heart was pounding as she scanned the area for Jake's escape pod. She was angry at him for disobeying orders, but she was more worried about whether he was alive. "I've got a signal," her co-pilot said. "Emergency beacon. Bearing 270. Take us there, fast," Hayes ordered. They found the escape pod floating among the wreckage of destroyed ships. It was small and badly damaged, with scorch marks across its white surface. Hayes brought her fighter close and used her ship's mechanical arm to grab the pod and pull it into her cargo bay. Pod secured. "Taking him back to the carrier," Hayes said into her radio. "How bad is he?" asked Captain Rogers from the UNS Defender, their mother ship. Hayes checked her screens. The numbers made her stomach drop. Life signs are weak. He needs medical attention immediately. I'm coming in hot. She pushed her engines to maximum and raced back toward the carrier. Behind her, the rest of the squadron stayed to secure the area and scan for more survivors. They found none. Every enemy fighter had been destroyed or had fled. Jake had stopped them all. On the UNS Defender, the medical team was ready when Hayes arrived. They pulled Jake's unconscious body from the escape pod and rushed him to the medical bay. Dr. Stevens was waiting there, his face serious as he examined Jake. Multiple injuries, Stevens said, moving his scanner over Jake's body. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, severe burns on his left side. He paused and checked the scanner again, frowning. And radiation exposure. Significant radiation exposure from the explosion. Can you save him? Hayes asked. Stevens looked at her with troubled eyes. The injuries. Yes. We can fix those. But the radiation damage is at the cellular level. It's already spreading through his body. Our technology can slow it down, but not stop it. Not reverse it. How long does he have? Hayes's voice was quiet. 3 days. Maybe 4. Hayes felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. She had known Jake for 2 years. He was a good pilot and a better friend. He always helped the younger pilots, always volunteered for the dangerous missions, always tried to do the right thing. And now he was dying because he tried to save people he didn't even know. She sat beside his bed and took his hand. You stupid, brave idiot, she whispered. Why did you do it? Jake couldn't answer. He lay still on the medical bed, his skin pale and covered with sweat. Machines beeped around him, monitoring his failing body. 300 light-years away, Queen Lysara stood in her throne room on the Vorithian homeworld. She had escaped the attack, but she couldn't stop thinking about the human pilot. Her advisors were talking about security and investigating who had sent the assassins. But she wasn't listening. My queen, one of her advisors said. Are you well? Lysara turned to face them. That human pilot. Do we know if he survived? We're trying to find out, Your Majesty. We've sent messages to the human military, but they haven't responded yet. Send more messages. Use every channel we have. I must know what happened to him, Lysara said firmly. An older Vorathian with deep blue scales stepped forward. He was Lord Craven, her chief advisor. My queen, with respect, why does this matter? He was just one soldier doing his duty. He was not doing his duty, Lysara said, her voice sharp. His duty was to stay with his squadron. He broke away alone to save me. He gave his life for mine. That is not duty. That is sacrifice. Lord Craven bowed his head. Of course, Your Majesty. I apologize. Lord Craven bowed his head. I apologize. 2 hours later, a message finally came from the human military. Lysara read it 3 times, and each time the words hurt more. The pilot's name was Jake Morrison. He had survived the explosion but was dying from radiation poisoning. Human medicine could not save him. Lysara stood from her throne and walked to the window. She looked out at her capital city, with its tall towers and beautiful gardens. She had ruled this empire fairly and wisely. She had made difficult decisions before, but this decision might be the most difficult of all. Prepare my ship, she said suddenly. We're going to the humans, her advisors gasped. Lord Craven stepped forward quickly. My queen, you cannot. It's too dangerous. We don't even know if the humans will allow it. And after the assassination attempt, you should stay here where it's safe. The human pilot didn't think about safety when he saved me, Lysara said. He didn't think about politics or danger or whether I would appreciate it. He simply acted because it was right. I will do the same. But, Your Majesty, Lord Craven started. I am invoking the life debt of the crown, Lysara said loudly. Her voice echoed through the throne room, and everyone fell silent. The life debt of the crown was an ancient Vorathian law, older than their space program, older than their modern civilization. It stated that when someone saved a monarch's life, the crown was bound by sacred honor to repay that debt. Any cost, any risk, any sacrifice was acceptable to fulfill it. My queen, Lord Craven said slowly, the life debt has not been invoked in over 300 years, and never for someone outside our species. Then it's time we remembered what honor means, Lysara said. Ready my personal physician. Tell Dr. Valen to bring the regeneration equipment. We leave within the hour. Lysara's personal ship reached the UNS Defender the next morning. Captain Rogers had agreed to let her come aboard, though he was clearly nervous about having an alien queen on his ship. He met her in the docking bay with a full security team. Lysara stepped off her ship with grace, her 4 arms held in a gesture of peace. She wore simple robes instead of her royal armor, and she came with only 2 guards and her physician, Dr. Valen, who carried several cases of medical equipment. Captain Rogers, Lysara said in perfect English. She had learned the language years ago when humans first made contact. Thank you for allowing me to come, Your Majesty, Rogers said, bowing slightly. He wasn't sure how to greet an alien queen. I'm told you want to see Lieutenant Morrison? I want to save him, Lysara corrected. Rogers exchanged glances with Commander Hayes, who stood beside him. Our doctors have tried everything. I don't mean any disrespect, but I'm not sure what you can do that we cannot. Vorathian medical technology is more advanced than human medicine in some areas, Lysara explained, particularly in cellular regeneration. My physician has treated radiation damage before. There is a procedure that might work. Rogers looked hopeful for the first time in days. What kind of procedure? Dr. Valen stepped forward. He was old, with silver scales and kind eyes. It's called a bio-link regeneration. The queen will connect her nervous system to the patient's through a neural interface. Over 7 days, she will share her bioenergy with him, giving his cells the power they need to repair themselves. That sounds dangerous, Hayes said. It is, Valen admitted. If the patient dies during the process, the queen dies with him. Their life forces will be linked. They will share everything: pain, dreams, memories, emotions. It requires great sacrifice. My queen, you cannot do this, Lord Craven said urgently. He had come aboard with Lysara, still trying to change her mind. The risk is too great. The risk is acceptable, Lysara said calmly. This human gave everything to save me. I will do no less for him. Take me to him. They brought Lysara to the medical bay. Jake lay on the bed, unconscious and barely breathing. His skin was gray, and dark veins showed through, spreading from where the radiation had entered his body. He looked young and fragile. Lysara approached his bed slowly. She reached out with one hand and gently touched his forehead. His skin was burning hot with fever. He's so young, she said softly. Jake Morrison, Hayes replied. He's 27. He lost his sister 8 years ago. She drowned, and he couldn't save her. I think that's why he did what he did. He couldn't stand to watch someone die when he had the power to help. Lysara felt something tighten in her chest. This human had been carrying pain for years, and still he chose to help others. Still he chose to be brave. Begin the procedure, she told Dr. Valen. Your Majesty, please reconsider, Lord Craven tried, one more time. No, Lysara said firmly. I have made my choice. Dr. Valen attached thin wires to Lysara's head and neck, then attached matching wires to Jake. He activated the machine, and Lysara felt a strange tingling sensation as the connection formed. Then everything changed. She could feel Jake's pain flooding through her body. She could sense his damaged cells dying, feel the radiation burning through him like fire. She gasped and nearly fell, but her guards caught her. My queen, they cried. I'm fine, Lysara said through gritted teeth. She sat in a chair beside Jake's bed and closed her eyes. She focused all her strength, all her energy, all her will. And she pushed it through the neural link into Jake's failing body. The process had begun. For the next 7 days, their lives would be bound together. Either they both lived, or they both died. There was no turning back now. The first day was the hardest. Lysara sat beside Jake's bed, her eyes closed, her breathing slow and controlled. Through the neural link, she could feel everything he felt, the burning pain of radiation damage, the struggling of his lungs to draw breath, the fever that made his mind confused and chaotic. She didn't complain. She had chosen this path, and she would see it through. Dr. Vallon monitored both patients carefully. On his screens, he could see Lysara's bioenergy flowing into Jake's body like a stream of light. Jake's damaged cells were slowly beginning to repair themselves, but the process was agonizingly slow. "How is she?" Commander Hayes asked quietly. She had barely left the medical bay since Lysara started the treatment. "Stable, but weakening," Vallon replied. "This procedure requires enormous energy. The Queen is essentially keeping 2 people alive with her life force. Every hour that passes, she grows weaker." Hayes looked at Lysara with new respect. The alien queen sat perfectly still, her silver scales growing duller as her strength drained away. She was giving everything she had to save Jake. "Why is she doing this?" Hayes wondered aloud. "She doesn't even know him." "It's the life debt," Lord Craven said bitterly. He stood in the corner, watching with disapproval. "An ancient law that should have been forgotten centuries ago. She risks her life, and by extension, the stability of our entire empire, for one human soldier." "He saved her life," Hayes said firmly. "That means something." "To her, perhaps," Craven muttered. "To the nobles back home, it means their queen is risking everything for an alien." They are not pleased. As the hours passed, something strange began to happen. The neural link wasn't just transferring energy, it was transferring memories and emotions as well. Lysara found herself experiencing Jake's life as if she had lived it herself. She saw his childhood on a farm planet called New Dakota. She felt his joy when his sister Amy was born. Felt how much he loved her. She experienced his horror the day Amy drowned. Felt the guilt that had eaten at him for years. She understood now why he had charged into battle alone. He couldn't bear to feel that helpless again. But the link worked both ways. Deep in his unconscious mind, Jake was experiencing Lysara's memories too. He saw her coronation at age 30, when she became queen after her father's death. He felt the weight of responsibility she carried every day. He experienced her loneliness at the top, with no one to truly confide in. He saw her attempts to bring reform to her empire, to make peace with neighboring species, and the constant resistance from conservative nobles who wanted to keep things as they had always been. He felt her fear during the assassination attempt, and then her amazement when a strange human pilot appeared from nowhere to save her life. On the second day, Jake's fever broke. His vital signs improved slightly. Dr. Stevens, the human doctor, was amazed. "It's working," he said with wonder. "The radiation damage is reversing. I've never seen anything like this." But Lysara was paying a price. Her scales had lost their shine completely. She breathed with difficulty. "We continue," she whispered. Her voice was weak but determined. Captain Rogers visited the medical bay that afternoon. He stood beside Lysara's chair and looked down at her with concern. "Your Majesty, you're killing yourself to save him." "Why?" "AT 70. Lysara opened her eyes slowly. They still glowed with that soft purple light, but dimmer now. "Because he would do the same for me. I know this now. Through our connection, I see his heart. He is someone who gives everything to help others, even at great cost to himself. How can I do less?" "Ah, ah, ah, ah." Rogers nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand. News of what was happening spread quickly through both human and Vorathian space. On Earth, people watched broadcasts about the alien queen who was dying to save a human hero. Opinion was divided. Some admired her courage. Others were suspicious, wondering what the Vorathians really wanted. On the Vorathian homeworld, the reaction was stronger. Many nobles were furious that their queen was risking her life for a human. They held emergency council meetings and sent urgent messages demanding she stop the procedure immediately. Lord Craven received these messages on the UNS Defender. He brought them to Lysara, hoping they would convince her to abandon this foolish quest. "My queen, the High Council demands your return. They say this has gone too far. Lord Vexar is even talking about declaring you unfit to rule." Lysara's eyes flashed with anger, even in her weakened state. Lord Vexar is a coward who has never risked anything in his life. He doesn't understand honor because he has none. "Tell the High Council I will return when my debt is paid, and not before." Craven bowed his head in defeat. He had lost this argument. On the third day, Jake began to dream. But these weren't normal dreams. They were vivid and real, mixing his memories with Lysara's. In his mind, he walked through the royal palace on the Vorathian homeworld. He saw Lysara as a young princess, learning to rule from her father. He felt her sadness when her father died, leaving her alone with such huge responsibilities. He saw her sitting in the throne room, making difficult decisions, choosing between building new schools or funding the military, deciding which planets would receive aid during famines, sentencing criminals to punishment, knowing some of them might be innocent, but having to trust her judges. He understood now what it meant to be a leader. The weight of it, the loneliness of it, the way every choice you made affected millions of lives, and Lysara was seeing his life too. She saw him in flight school, working twice as hard as everyone else to prove he deserved to be there. She saw him earning his wings, joining his squadron, making friends. She saw him flying patrol routes, day after day, keeping people safe from dangers they would never know about. She saw the nightmares he had about Amy, the way he woke up gasping, remembering her face under the water. She felt his determination to never let someone die while he watched again. Through the neural link, they were learning everything about each other. Their hopes, their fears, their regrets, their dreams. Two people from different species, becoming connected in a way few beings ever experienced. On the fourth day, complications arose. Jake's body was healing, but the strain on Lysara was becoming too much. Her heart rate was dangerously low. Her breathing was shallow. Dr. Valen checked his instruments with growing alarm. "The Queen is failing," he announced. "If we continue, she will die." "Then stop the procedure," Captain Rogers said immediately. "No. You won't survive 3 more days," Valen said gently. "Your Majesty, I'm sorry, but we must stop." Lysara tried to shake her head, but she didn't have the strength. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She had come so far, sacrificed so much. She couldn't bear the thought of Jake dying now after everything. Commander Hayes stepped forward. "Is there anything we can do? Any way? To help her?" Valen thought for a long moment. "The procedure requires enormous bioenergy. If we had another source of energy to supplement the Queen's, she might survive long enough to complete the treatment." "What kind of energy?" asked Dr. Stevens. "Any biological energy compatible with Vorathian physiology," Valen explained. "But it would need to be strong, pure, freely given. And the donor would need to be connected to the neural link as well, creating a 3-way bond." Hayes looked around the room. Several people volunteered immediately, but Valen shook his head. It must be someone with a strong will and life force. Someone who genuinely cares about both patients. The neural link responds to emotion as much as biology. Hayes thought for a moment, then nodded. "Connect me to the link." Commander, are you sure?" Rogers asked. "Jake is my friend. And the Queen is trying to save him. Yes, I'm sure. Valen attached the neural wires to Hayes's head. The moment the connection activated, Hayes gasped. She could feel everything Jake felt, everything Lysara felt. The pain, the exhaustion, the determination. It was overwhelming, but she also felt something else. Through the link, she could sense the bond forming between Jake and Lysara. Despite never having spoken a word to each other, despite being from different worlds, they understood each other completely. They had shared their deepest selves. And in doing so, had created something rare and precious, true understanding between two souls. Hayes focused her mind and pushed her own energy into the link. It wasn't as strong as Lysara's, but it was enough. The readings on Valen's screens stabilized. It's working, Valen said with relief. The Queen is stable again. Hayes sat down heavily in a chair, sweat pouring down her face. How long do I need to do this? Just until the end of today. By tomorrow, the worst will be over. The patient's body will be strong enough to continue healing on its own, with just the Queen's support. Hayes nodded and closed her eyes. Through the neural link, she felt Lysara's gratitude flowing toward her, like warm sunlight. She felt Jake's unconscious mind stirring, growing stronger, and she felt something else, hope. On the 5th day, Jake opened his eyes for the first time. The medical bay was quiet, lit only by the glow of monitoring equipment. He tried to move and found he couldn't. His body felt weak and strange. Then he noticed Lysara sitting beside him. Even in her weakened state, she was beautiful. Her silver scales caught the light, and her purple eyes looked at him with warmth and recognition. "You're awake," she said softly. Her voice was like music. Jake tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. A nurse quickly brought him water, and he drank gratefully. "Where am I?" he finally managed to ask. "On your ship, the UNS Defender. You've been unconscious for 5 days," Lysara explained. "Do you remember what happened?" Memories flooded back. The battle, the explosion, the escape pod, and then, dreams. Or were they dreams? He remembered walking through an alien palace. He remembered feeling what it was like to be a queen. He remembered understanding someone completely. He looked at Lysara and knew she had experienced his memories too. She knew about Amy. She knew about his guilt and his nightmares. She knew everything about him. "You saved my life," Jake said. "You saved mine first," Lysara replied with a small smile. Jake looked at her carefully. She was pale and weak, her scales dull. She looked exhausted in a way that went deeper than just physical tiredness. "What did you do to me? I remember things that aren't my memories. I remember being you." "The neural link," Lysara explained. "It was necessary to save you. But it had side effects. We shared everything. Memories, emotions, experiences. I know you, as well as I know myself now. And you know me, the same way." Jake thought about that. It should have felt strange or invasive, but it didn't. He remembered Lysara's life, and he understood why she made the choices she did. He felt no anger, only gratitude and something else he couldn't quite name. "How long were you connected to me?" he asked. 5 days. "We have 2 more to go. Before the treatment is complete. 2 more days of you giving me your energy?" "You'll die," Jake said with alarm. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his body, and he fell back against the pillow. "Don't move," Lysara said quickly. "Your body is still healing, and I won't die. Commander Hayes helped stabilize me. I'm weak, but I'll survive." Dr. Valen entered the medical bay and smiled when he saw Jake was awake. "Excellent. Your recovery is progressing well. How do you feel?" "Wah, like I was hit by a cruiser," Jake said honestly. "Because I was," Valen chuckled. "That was remarkably brave, and remarkably foolish. You destroyed yourself to save the Queen. It was worth it, Jake said, looking at Lysara. Something passed between them in that moment, a deep understanding that needed no words. Through the neural link, they could sense each other's emotions. Lysara felt Jake's certainty that he would make the same choice again. Jake felt Lysara's profound gratitude and respect. Over the next 2 days, Jake grew stronger, while Lysara remained connected to him. They talked for hours, learning about each other's worlds and cultures. Jake told her about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests he had grown up with. He told her about human music and art, about the messy democracy that governed human space, about the thousands of different cultures that made humanity so diverse and chaotic. Lysara told him about the Vorathian Empire, about the crystal cities on her homeworld and the ancient traditions that guided her people. She told him about Vorathian philosophy, which valued honor and duty above all else. She told him about the struggles of being queen, trying to lead her people into a new era, while traditionalists fought her at every step. Many of my nobles don't want change, Lysara said. They're afraid of humans, afraid of what it means that our species have met. They want to close our borders and pretend you don't exist. Some humans feel the same way about aliens, Jake admitted. There's always fear of the unknown. But you weren't afraid, Lysara said. You risked everything to save me, even though I was a stranger, even though I'm not human. Jake thought about that. My sister drowned because no one acted in time. I learned that day that hesitation costs lives. When I saw your ship under attack, marking 5. When I saw your ship under attack, I didn't think about politics or species. I just saw someone who needed help. Through the neural link, Lysara felt the pain behind his words. She reached out with one of her 4 hands and gently touched his. Your sister would be proud of you. Jake felt tears in his eyes. Thank you. On the 7th day, Dr. Valen disconnected the neural link. The process was gentle but strange. Jake felt a sudden emptiness, as if something precious had been taken away. He could no longer sense Lysara's emotions or feel her presence in his mind. But the connection wasn't completely gone. A faint echo remained, like a whisper, at the edge of hearing. When he looked at Lysara, he could still sense her feelings, though not as clearly as before. The bond remains, Valen explained. Weaker than it was, but permanent. You will always be able to sense each other, to some degree. It's a rare side effect of such an extended neural link. Is that dangerous? Captain Rogers asked. No, just unusual. In all of Vorathian history, there have been only a dozen recorded cases of such a permanent bond forming. It's considered a great gift. Jake stood up slowly. His legs were weak after a week in bed, but he was healing. The radiation damage was gone. His cells were healthy again. He would live. Lysara stood as well, though her guards rushed to support her. She was still weak from the ordeal, but she was smiling. Thank you, Jake said to her. For everything. Thank you for giving me a reason to do it, Lysara replied. News of Jake's recovery spread quickly through both human and Vorathian space. The story of the human pilot who sacrificed himself and the alien queen who saved him became famous overnight. People called them heroes. They called it a symbol of hope for cooperation between species. But not everyone was happy. On the Vorathian homeworld, conservative nobles met in secret. Lord Vexar, the most powerful among them, addressed the group with barely controlled anger. The Queen has made us look weak, he said. She risked her life for a human. She formed a neural bond with an alien. This is unacceptable. What do you suggest we do? Asked another noble. The Queen is returning home soon for the Festival of Unity, Vexar said. And she's bringing the human with her. An opportunity will present itself. The other nobles understood his meaning. They nodded in agreement. A week later, Jake stood in front of a mirror in his quarters on the UNS Defender. He wore his dress uniform, freshly cleaned and pressed. Today, he was being officially honored for his actions. More importantly, Lysara was returning to her home world, and she had invited him to come with her. Commander Hayes entered his quarters. "Ready for your big day?" "I'm not sure," Jake admitted. "I'm just a pilot. I'm not good with ceremonies and speeches." "You're more than just a pilot now," Hayes said. "Whether you like it or not, you're a symbol. The first human to ever receive a Vorathian royal honor. This is bigger than you." Jake sighed. "I know. I just wish Amy could see this. She always said I would do something important someday." "She knows," Hayes said gently. "Wherever she is, she knows." The ceremony took place in the main hangar bay, with hundreds of crew members attending. Admiral Chen herself came to present Jake with the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration humans could give. "Lieutenant Jake Morrison," Admiral Chen said in a clear voice, "for exceptional bravery in the face of overwhelming odds, for sacrificing yourself to save innocent lives, and for demonstrating the best values humanity has to offer, I present you with this medal." She pinned the medal to his uniform. Everyone in the hangar applauded. Jake felt embarrassed and proud at the same time. Then, Lysara stepped forward. She wore her royal armor now, gleaming silver with purple jewels. She looked every inch a queen, powerful and elegant. But when she looked at Jake, her eyes were warm. "Lieutenant Morrison," she said formally, "on behalf of the Vorathian Empire, I invite you to our homeworld as an honored guest. You will be the first human to ever visit our capital city. You will be presented to our people as a hero and a friend." "I accept, Your Majesty," Jake said, bowing slightly. Through their faint bond, he could sense her nervousness. She was worried about how her people would react to him. He sent her a feeling of support and confidence, and he felt her gratitude in return. 2 days later, Jake boarded Lysara's ship for the journey to the Vorathian homeworld. The ship was beautiful inside, all smooth curves and soft lighting. Everything was larger than human ships because Vorathians were taller. Captain Rogers and Commander Hayes came to see him off. "Be careful," Rogers said. "We don't know how the Vorathians will react to a human visiting their home world. Some of them might not be friendly." "I'll be fine," Jake said. "Lysara will make sure of it." Hayes hugged him. "Come back safe." "That's an order." "Yes, Commander." The journey took 3 days. Jake spent most of that time with Lysara, learning about Vorathian customs and etiquette. She taught him how to bow properly, how to address nobles, what topics were considered polite or rude. "The Festival of Unity is our most important celebration," Lysara explained. "It commemorates the day our empire stopped its civil wars and united under one crown. For 1 week, all of our people come together in peace." "Sounds wonderful," Jake said. "It usually is," Lysara said. When they arrived at the Vorathian homeworld, Jake looked out the window, in awe. The planet was beautiful, with purple oceans and silver clouds. The capital city gleamed like a jewel, with crystal towers that reached toward the sky. They landed at the royal palace, where thousands of Vorathians waited to see their queen return. Jake felt nervous as the ship's doors opened. What if they hated him? What if they saw him as an enemy? But when Lysara stepped out with Jake beside her, the crowd erupted in cheers. Not everyone was happy. Jake could see some Vorathians in the crowd, with angry expressions. But most seemed curious and welcoming. Lord Vexar stood at the front of the welcoming party, his face carefully neutral. "Welcome home, Your Majesty. We are relieved to see you well." "Thank you, Lord Vexar," Lysara said coolly. Through their bond, Jake felt her distrust of this noble. The welcoming ceremony was long and formal. Jake stood beside Lysara, trying not to make any mistakes. Various nobles came forward to greet the queen and stare at him with curiosity. Finally, they were led to the royal palace. It was even more magnificent inside than Jake had imagined from Lysara's memories. Walls of crystal reflected light in rainbow patterns. Gardens grew inside the building, with plants that glowed softly in the dim light. "You'll have quarters near mine," Lysara told Jake. "The ceremony where I honor you will be tomorrow." during the opening of the Festival of Unity. Try to rest. Tomorrow will be a long day. Jake nodded and was led to his rooms by Vorathian servants. The quarters were huge and comfortable. Though the furniture was sized for people much taller than him, he lay down on the bed and thought about everything that had happened. 2 weeks ago, he had been a simple pilot flying patrol. Now, he was on an alien world, about to be honored by their queen. His life had changed completely. Through their bond, he could sense Lysara in her chambers nearby. She was worried about something. He reached out with his mind, sending her a feeling of support. The Festival of Unity began at dawn. Jake woke to the sound of music floating through his windows. Strange and beautiful melodies played on instruments he had never heard before. He got dressed in the formal clothing that Lysara's servants had provided for him. It was made of soft fabric that shimmered with silver threads, designed to show respect while clearly marking him as human. A guard came to escort him to the main plaza, where the opening ceremony would be held. As they walked through the palace corridors, Jake saw Vorathians of all kinds preparing for the festival. Servants carried decorations. Musicians practiced their songs. Children ran past, laughing with excitement. The main plaza was enormous, easily large enough to hold 50,000 people. It was already filling up with Vorathians who had come to see their queen and hear her speech. Jake was led to a platform near the throne, where he would stand during the ceremony. Lysara arrived a few minutes later, wearing ceremonial robes that sparkled like stars. She looked magnificent and regal, every inch the powerful queen her people needed. But when she glanced at Jake, he saw the warmth in her eyes and felt her nervousness through their bond. Lord Vexar stood on the other side of the platform, along with a dozen other high nobles. They watched Jake, with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely hidden contempt. Jake kept his face neutral and stood at attention like the soldier he was. The ceremony began with traditional Vorathian music. Singers with beautiful voices performed songs about unity and peace. Dancers moved across the plaza in complex patterns, their movements telling stories of the Empire's history. Then Lysara stood and approached the edge of the platform. The crowd fell silent immediately. 50,000 Vorathians looked up at their queen, waiting to hear her words. "My people," Lysara began, her voice strong and clear, amplified by technology so everyone could hear. "We gather today, as we have for 1,000 years, to celebrate the unity that makes us strong. To remember that we are one empire, one people, bound together by common purpose and shared honor." The crowd cheered. Lysara let them cheer for a moment, then raised her hand for silence. "But today I also want to speak about a different kind of unity. 2 weeks ago, I faced death. Assassins attacked my ship, and my guards fell defending me. I was alone and helpless, about to die far from home." She paused, and the crowd was absolutely silent. "Then someone came to save me. Not a Vorathian, not one of our empire. A human, a species we barely know, a people we have kept at arm's length. This human pilot saw me in danger and didn't hesitate. He attacked an enemy fleet alone. He destroyed his own ship to save my life. He gave everything, without asking for anything, in return." Lysara gestured toward Jake. "Lieutenant Jake Morrison stands here today as proof that courage and honor are not limited to one species, that the values we hold dear, sacrifice, duty, compassion, can be found in beings very different from ourselves." Some in the crowd applauded. Others murmured uncertainly. Jake could see the division among them. "In return for his sacrifice, I invoked the life debt of the crown. For 7 days, I was connected to this human through a neural link, sharing my life force to save him from death. And in those 7 days, I learned something remarkable." Lysara's voice grew stronger, more passionate. "I learned that humans and Vorathians are not as different as we think. We both love our families. We both fear death. We both dream of a better future. We both understand the meaning of honor. Jake Morrison showed me that walls between species exist only in our minds, not in our hearts. Lord Vexar shifted uncomfortably. Other nobles looked distinctly unhappy. Therefore, Lysara continued, I am officially declaring that Jake Morrison is a friend of the Empire, the first non-Vorathian to ever receive this honor. He will always be welcome in our worlds, and more importantly, I am proposing that we open formal diplomatic relations with humanity. It is time to turn strangers into friends, time to build bridges instead of walls. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Many cheered enthusiastically, but others shouted in protest. Arguments broke out in different parts of the plaza. The nobles on the platform looked shocked and angry. Lord Vexar stepped forward, his face dark with rage. Your Majesty, this is outrageous. You cannot make such a decision without consulting the High Council. I am your queen, Lysara said sharply. I can and I have. This human has bewitched you with the neural link, Vexar shouted. You are not thinking clearly. Through their bond, Jake felt Lysara's anger flash hot. But before she could respond, something else happened. 10 figures in dark armor suddenly appeared on the platform, materializing from thin air. They were Vorathian assassins, and they moved with deadly speed. Protect the queen, the royal guards shouted. Everything happened at once. The assassins attacked from multiple directions. 3 went for Lysara, 2 went for Lord Craven and the other nobles, and 5 came straight for Jake. Jake's combat training took over instantly. He dodged the first assassin's blade, grabbed the attacker's arm, and used their own momentum to flip them over the platform's edge. The second assassin was faster. Their blade came within inches of Jake's throat. Then Lysara was there, blocking the strike with her own ceremonial sword. The two of them moved instinctively together, their movements perfectly synchronized through their bond. Jake could feel where Lysara would move before she moved. Lysara could anticipate Jake's actions before he took them. They fought back to back, protecting each other. The assassins were skilled and deadly, but they hadn't counted on the bond between Jake and Lysara. It was like fighting one opponent with 2 bodies. Every attack from one was instantly supported by the other. The royal guards finally reached the platform and joined the fight. The battle was brief but intense. Several guards fell. 2 assassins escaped, but the rest were captured or killed. When it was over, Jake and Lysara stood together, both breathing hard, both uninjured. The crowd in the plaza was in chaos, people screaming and running in all directions. Are you hurt? Jake asked Lysara. No? You? I'm fine. Through their bond, they felt each other's adrenaline and relief. They had survived together. The royal guards quickly secured the area. The captured assassins were taken away for questioning. Lord Vexar was also taken into custody. Investigation would later prove he had hired the assassins, hoping to kill both Lysara and Jake and blame humans for the attack. In the aftermath, Lysara stood before her people once more. The plaza had cleared significantly, but thousands still remained, watching to see what their queen would do. My people, Lysara said, her voice shaking slightly but still strong. You have just witnessed exactly why we need allies, why we need friends among other species, the enemies of unity, the enemies of progress. They will always exist. They will always try to stop us from growing, but we cannot let them win. The rain. She reached out and took Jake's hand. The gesture was seen by everyone present, broadcast across the entire empire. This human and I just fought together to defend our lives. We moved as one because we understand each other. We trust each other. This is what friendship between species looks like. This is what the future can be, if we are brave enough to reach for it. This time, the cheers were louder and more widespread. The attempted assassination had shown people something important. It had shown them that Jake was willing to fight for their queen, willing to protect her even at risk to himself. Over the next few days, everything changed. The Festival of Unity continued. but with a new meaning. Jake walked through the city with Lysara, meeting common people who wanted to thank him. Children asked him questions about Earth. Artists wanted to paint his portrait. Musicians composed songs about the human hero and the alien queen. The Vorathian High Council formally approved diplomatic relations with humanity. Trade agreements were discussed. Cultural exchange programs were planned. Everything Jake and Lysara had hoped for began to take shape. But more than that, a genuine friendship formed between the two species. Vorathians started to see humans not as strange aliens to fear, but as potential friends who shared their values. Humans started to see Vorathians not as superior aliens to envy, but as people with the same struggles and dreams. One evening, Jake and Lysara stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The sun was setting, painting the crystal towers in shades of gold and purple. Below them, the festival continued with music and dancing. "Your sister would be proud of you," Lysara said quietly. "Everything you've accomplished. Everything you've helped create." Jake smiled. "She would probably say I should have thought things through better before charging into that battle." Lysara laughed. "Perhaps, but if you had thought it through, you might not have acted. Sometimes courage requires a moment of recklessness." "Is that Vorathian philosophy?" "No," Lysara admitted. "That's something I learned from a human." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Through their bond, they could sense each other's contentment and peace. "What happens now?" Jake asked. "I'm supposed to return to my ship eventually. Resume my duties." "Not immediately," Lysara said. "I have officially requested that you be assigned as the first human liaison to the Vorathian court. Your Captain Rogers has approved it." Jake looked at her in surprise. "You're more than a pilot now," Lysara said gently. "You're a bridge between our peoples. Your presence here, your willingness to learn our ways and share human culture, it matters more than you know. People see you, and they see hope. They see proof that different species can not only coexist, but genuinely care for each other." Jake thought about that. It was true that he had changed. He wasn't just a fighter pilot anymore. He had become something else, a symbol, an ambassador, a friend to an entire alien empire. "What about you?" he asked. "You face opposition from some of your nobles. Will you be safe?" Well, with Lord Vexar in prison, the biggest threat is gone, and I have loyal guards. I'll be fine." She paused. "Besides, I have you. Through our bond, you'll sense if I'm ever in danger." Jake nodded. It was true. The bond between them was permanent. Wherever he went in the galaxy, he would always know if Lysara was hurt or afraid, and she would know the same about him. It was a strange gift, but a precious one. "Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked. "Saving me? The risk you took?" Lysara looked at him with those glowing purple eyes and smiled. "You showed me that the walls I had built around myself and my people were unnecessary. You taught me that courage sometimes means trusting someone completely different from yourself. And you proved that the best of us, human or Vorathian, will always choose sacrifice over safety when someone needs help." She placed one of her hands on his shoulder. "You changed the course of history, Jake Morrison. Two species who might have remained distant strangers for centuries are now friends and allies. All because you couldn't stand by and watch someone die." Jake felt his throat tighten with emotion. He had acted on instinct that day in space, driven by old guilt and a deep need to help. He never imagined it would lead to all this. "I just did what felt right," he said quietly. "That's what makes you a hero," Lysara replied. "True heroes don't calculate the odds or worry about the consequences. They simply act because their hearts demand it. Your heart demanded you save me. My heart demanded I save you in return. And now, both our peoples are better for it." Below them, the festival continued. Humans and Vorathians, the first human visitors, had started arriving, danced together, shared food, learned each other's songs. It was a small beginning, but it was real. Jake thought about Amy again. He thought about how she used to say that every person had the power to change the world if they were brave enough to try. He had never believed her back then. He thought he was just one person, too small to matter in a galaxy of billions. But she had been right. One act of courage really could change everything. One moment of choosing sacrifice over safety, choosing compassion over caution, could ripple out and touch millions of lives. "Thank you," Jake said to Lysara, "for everything you did, for saving my life, for showing me that what I did mattered." "Thank you," Lysara replied, "for reminding my people what true honor means, for showing us that the best allies are found in the most unexpected places." They stood together on the balcony as the sun finally set. Two beings from different worlds who had become something more than friends. They had become symbols of hope, proof that the vast distances between species could be crossed by simple courage and compassion. The story of the human pilot and the alien queen would be told for generations in both civilizations. It would be a reminder that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their military power. It was their stubborn refusal to abandon someone in need, even when helping meant sacrificing everything. And it would be a reminder that sometimes the most important alliances are forged not through treaties or trade agreements, but through two people who choose to trust each other completely, even when everything tells them they shouldn't. As darkness fell over the capital city, the festival lights came on, thousands of them sparkling like stars, and somewhere in that sea of light, humans and Vorathians continued to celebrate together, building friendships that would last for centuries to come. All because one pilot chose to be brave. All because one queen chose to repay a debt. All because two people from different worlds decided that courage, honor, and compassion mattered more than fear. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities and challenges. But whatever came next, Jake and Lysara would face it together, connected by an unbreakable bond and a shared belief that the galaxy was better when different peoples chose understanding over suspicion. And in that moment, standing together on the balcony with the celebrations spreading out below them, they both knew with absolute certainty that everything they had sacrificed had been worth it. The story had only just begun.